This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me, Xander's going to give us this week's topics.
Did the Lions be losing their best coordinator this offseason? And the Pistons just made a blockbuster deal as well. We'll talk about both these issues. It's a Fan Report.
The Lions could end up losing not one, but both of their coordinators. They've already parted ways with Anthony Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, their best coordinator...
No one's upset about that.
No, it was a mutually parting of ways. Just didn't work out. Not saying Anthony Lynn's a bad coach, it just didn't work out. As Andrew was mentioning, the Lions could be losing their best coordinator, and by that we mean their defensive coordinator, and Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is reportedly drawing interest from some of the teams who are currently searching for head coaches. I believe he's been asked to interview for I can't remember which job it was, but we saw it when we were at the game last night. I know that.
Denver, I think.
Was it Denver? It was Denver. Yes. You're right. Andrew, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, because, I mean, not many 3-win football teams have coordinators get interviewed for jobs. Let's start there, because that right there is kind of a surprise, especially considering he was a first-time coordinator also. Like, this coordinator position was all new to him, and now he's already receiving interest to interview for a head coaching job in Denver. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think, and do you think he could be gone?
My thoughts can be summed up in 2 words. Back off. He's not yours to take. He's ours.
I mean, technically, if they wanted to, they could take him.
No.
The Lions, I mean, technically, I think the Lions can decline allowing teams to interview him because he is under contract, but you run the risk of pissing off your coordinator at that point.
He's legitimately my favorite part of this coaching staff. I mean, for one, the secondary is the best it's looked since the Culver era.
With probably the least amount of talent that it's had in a long time,
and
too.
He did that in his first year here. He's been bringing out, I mean, we don't know how much, like, obviously, you know, some of that credit guy with Ben Campbell being the culture guy and all that, but just in general, he schemed in a way that brought out the best out of guys that you didn't think were going to be anything on this roster, which is something that Matt Patricia was never able to do. Matt Patricia could never put his guys in positions to succeed, and it looks like Aaron Glenn's been doing that as a DC of this team. I know you'd like, if he goes, good for him. Like, we kind of have to be happy for him that he, in 1 year, went from being a coordinator to being a head coach. But I, with all my being as a Lions fan, would like him to stay.
I mean, obviously, yeah, I'd like to see him stay. I don't want to see Aaron Glenn leave, and you kind of touched on some of the points why. Yes, I do think that in terms of the secondary, he got as much out of those guys that he had available to him as you possibly could. Oruwariye and AJ Parker both had good seasons. You had guys who were able to step up, and a lot of it had to do with the positions that they were put in, the roles that they played with this team. And Aaron Glenn's, I don't want to say the sole reason, but he pretty much is the sole reason for that. I mean, the defense was truly the only part of this team that had any semblance of consistency at all this year. And yeah, sure,
they're the reason we were so consistently good against the spread.
Right. Oh, 100%. And yeah, you want to say, but what about the games where they gave up 40, 50 points, like the Seahawks game or the Eagles game? Mm-hmm. Yeah, those happened. But there were other games that they didn't belong in that they were. And a lot of it had to do with the defense. And they did it without exactly a plethora of talent there. Like, who was the clear and away best defensive player going into the season? Exactly. Like, the fact that you have to sit there and think about it tells you the lack of defensive talent that was on this team. And Aaron Glenn still managed to get, I don't want to say plus players out of that, but managed to show cohesiveness, managed to show a pulse on the defensive side of the ball, and he's the reason for that. So to see him go, that would absolutely be detrimental to the defense in my mind. But I'm a little shocked to hear that even after just 1 year of being a coordinator somewhere, he's already getting a head coaching or getting interest to possibly be the head coach of another football team. And in all honesty, the Broncos are a team that, like, they could technically compete decently soon. Like, they were in line to try to make a playoff spot this year. So for them to go after not only a rookie defensive coordinator, but also a rookie head coach, that's kind of surprising to me. And, I don't want to say that they're doing this just to fulfill the Rooney Rule. I know that there are teams out there that have done that, and it's awful because for obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
Aaron Glenn I don't want to say he's earned it yet, because I do think you got to earn your stripes a little bit as with being a coordinator or being a high-level position coach. But he absolutely has the talent and the culture and the mindset to be a head coach in this league. So, yeah, I do think he's got to earn his stripes a little bit more at the coordinator position to kind of put himself up there. But he's got the talent to do it. No question about it. He's got the, he's got the ability. And I think he really probably proved that this year. So I really don't want to see him leave. I do think there's a chance it happens because I think he's a great coach and teams are seeing that after what he got out of this team that had zero talent. Imagine what he could do if he had talent. And some of these teams that may be interested have talent. So, yeah, it would suck to see him leave 100%. I personally am not quite sold on the possibility of him leaving. I don't think it's going to happen. But I've seen crazier things happen in this league, so I'm not exactly shoving it off. If you know what I mean.
Exactly. But it's so weird that, after the Lions end the season on a high note, I'm almost sad now because I'm like, I don't want to lose Aaron Glenn so soon.
Well, I mean,
but,
again, I think he would be like a second or third option or even a fourth option for some of these teams. But there are a lot of head coaching vacancies out there, so we'll see what happens.
In general, debate that's been, just to shift a little bit here, a debate that has kind of been raging among the Lions fan community has been the merits of winning this game against Green Bay on Sunday versus losing out on the number 1 draft pick. Do you think there was value in getting that victory on Sunday?
Yes and no. I mean, it's always good to end your season on a high note. You got to see some guys that you may not have been able to see.
Especially against the Packers.
Earlier in the year. Again, it was half the Packers. It was
half the Packers.
Yeah.
Half the Packers for half the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to have that happen, but at the same time, let me put it this way. They didn't really lose anything by winning the game in their own mindset. Because again, they were already the number 2 pick going in. They didn't expect to be the number 1 pick coming out. So their mindset going in was they were locked in at that spot.
But when
other circumstances, they probably didn't know. In all reality.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying as Lions fans, that opportunity opened up, they kind of started making us hesitant. Slow down, guys. Slow down. Take a breather.
The thing is there's still a possibility that they could have their pick of Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau. There are reports out there that the Jaguars may be looking at an offensive lineman at number 1 overall. I've seen it more and more as of late. And if that's the case, then this didn't hurt them at all in any way. And being at number 2, you still have your pick of the litter. And frankly, if you're like you and I'm fine with landing either one of them. Yeah, would I like Kayvon Thibodeau a little bit more? Sure, I think he's got higher upside. But at the same time, I think Aiden Hutchinson may be a little bit harder of a worker, and that may translate to better play in the NFL. So who really knows?
Out of curiosity,
what?
Who do the Jags have opposite Josh Allen on their line? Because I'm trying to gauge how in the market they'd be.
Well, you're talking on the defensive line. I don't know why you were thinking offensive line.
I'm just trying to gauge in my head how in the market they would be for an edge rusher.
Right now they have Calais Campbell. Wait, no, this is from years ago. Just kidding. Right now they have that's defensive tackles, and so they play a 3-4. That's right. But either way, it's obvious that they need. They need somebody along the line. There's no question about it.
I was saying you get the point because it's Kalavon Chason.
Okay, Chason. That's right.
Because what I'm getting at is you're right that the Jags might not even be in a market for an edge rusher. So there is absolutely a possibility that you still get your pick at number 2.
Absolutely. And just to kind of ask you a little trivia question here.
Yeah.
Who was the interim head coach for the Jaguars once Urban Meyer got fired?
Daryl Bevell.
Yeah, he was. He's just racking up the wins.
Did a great job
as the interim head coach. He did a better job than Urban Meyer. We'll say that.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of issues with that team entirely.
I know, but how many wins did he pick up as interim head coach?
I think 2 or 3. Was it 3? No, it was 2 because I think they got one under Urban Meyer, so he had 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not exactly a team that's totally devoid of talent. Like, they have James Robinson. Yeah, I know Travis Etienne missed the year, but they have DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. Mm-hmm. And Trevor Lawrence, who we don't really know what he is yet, but they have Josh Allen on the defensive side of the ball. So, like, there is some talent on that roster. Some of it's pretty high level. So, for them to have the season they had, I mean, that's pretty bad. But
yeah.
But again, like, they know that they have a lot of eggs put in the basket of Trevor Lawrence, so they need him to succeed. So their priority may be to protect him. And if that's the case, that's great for the Lions, because then it doesn't matter if you're 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and to answer your question, I know it was a very long-winded answer, but to answer your question, I really don't think it matters that much to them. And so I think you can look at it as it's a win.
To them, yeah. You see the locker room video? They were hyped.
Right. But I think you look at it as it's a win, and a win's a win. And they're going to go into the offseason with some confidence. Dan Campbell's going to have a little bit more fire in his belly to keep him going into next year. And so I don't think there's really many negatives to take out of it in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do believe that momentum is a real thing. I don't know if I buy into it so much of going season to season with momentum. I don't know if I buy into that part of it, but
no, like, I don't even think momentum carries from game to game, let alone season to season. But it just gives them a little more confidence.
Well, we'll find out tonight with the Pistons if momentum carries from game to game.
Yes, we will.
They are plus 14 if anybody wanted to bet them.
Yeah, I believe the Bulls were on the money line minus 700 tonight. So
Jesus.
The Jazz were only a minus
1,500.
Oh, right
minus
now they're minus 1,500?
Yep.
The Jazz were minus 400, I believe, by tip-off yesterday.
That's at least according to Bally Sports. I got the game on the screen right now, and they're saying that.
Okay.
But
the game hasn't started yet, right?
No, okay. It has not started yet. But as I was saying, watching that locker room video, it's kind of hard for me to be mad when it's clear. Like, it looks like the win meant a lot to those guys in general. Like, in terms of just the mentality that Dan Campbell was trying to instill of, like, you get so far down in the dumps, losing game after game, and to find your way to fight back and to close out the season strong, like, actually means something. And, like, that part I'll buy into, which is where I can see one taking more value out of winning what was otherwise a meaningless game in week 18 over getting the first versus the second overall pick.
Right, especially when it could be totally inconsequential in the grand scheme of things if the Jaguars don't take one of the 2 guys that you're eyeing.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we are going to move on into our Lions roundup here. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Lions finished their season with a W, a 37-30 win over the Green Bay Packers at home. Mm-hmm. The half Green Bay Packers, I should say. But they finished their year 3-13 and 1. Sorry. Yeah. 3-13-1. Mm-hmm. We saw a lot of ups and downs this year. I want to take this in a way where I don't necessarily want to give grades, because I don't think it's really fair to give grades to a 3-win team that is entirely in a rebuild. Mm-hmm. We knew this team wasn't going to be winning a lot of games. I think the Lions' 5.5 wins was one of the easiest unders you could have in the year.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think they were going to make it, but they actually hit my preseason prediction of 3 wins, which I think if we're going to grade based on my preseason prediction, I'd give them a flat C because they got right to it. So.
I mean, I think one of the positives I can take from this year. So let's do it this way. Let's give a positive and a negative from the season.
Okay.
So one of the positives I can take from this year is we got to see some young talent get some valuable experience in this league, and that doesn't just mean guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Ali McNeil, Amani Arwari. That also means Dan Campbell, because he's a young head coach in terms of his career is young. And when he took over, obviously to start the year, things were a mess. Everything was in total shambles. But we honestly saw the growth of Dan Campbell, not only as a head coach, but also as a play caller. There were a lot of growing pains with his play calling when he took over from Anthony Lynn. But we started to see things kind of smooth out a little bit towards the end of the year. They were able to put up some points and move the ball. And sure, there were still some questionable plays being called, but every team has those. And we look at them under a microscope in this town because of what we've gone through with Patricia and Caldwell as well with the play calling, but also because Lions fans, I think, want to have a short leash with this guy. And so we look at and scrutinize every single thing. And I know we do it here on this podcast as well, because in the grand scheme, we're fans. Yeah. So, but I do think that the way Dan Campbell ended this season has given me a hell of a lot more confidence in him than I had after like week 8. No question about it.
I 100% agree.
Seeing the youth on this team put up some valuable production gives me a little bit of hope for the future.
And that was my positive, but I guess I'll try to add an extra little layer to that to hit my positive, try to give a little bit different spin too. And it's just seeing the attitude of the players on this team compared to what we were seeing the last 3 years, where these guys
don't have a mutiny.
Yeah, these guys actually seem to want to play for their coach. They look like they want to give an effort out there, and they're taking pride in the jersey they're wearing. And that's something that you absolutely cannot go without if you're looking to build a contending team in the NFL. The guys have to be bought in, and it really does look like in year 1 of Dan Campbell, the guys have bought in. But just building on what you said, yeah, I'm loving the youth movement that's kind of going on in all of Detroit sports right now. But to talk about the Lions end of it, yeah, I went going into the season thinking that this defense was 11 players away. And by the end of the season, I'm like, all right, there's a few guys here that I want to see stick around. And doing that without actually making any transactions that were of any substance, yeah, I think that's a big one.
Absolutely agree. Like, and I like the point about the attitude that these guys had and the culture that seems to be starting here. Because these guys obviously wanted to play for Dan Campbell, because we got a hell of a lot more out of some of these guys than we expected to. So to see them play up, that's pretty intriguing and pretty exciting for the future. So I like it a lot. All right, let's give each a negative. Okay. My negative is we still do not have some talent on this roster. Like, there is very little talent on this roster still. And even more glaring so is we are no closer to having a solution at quarterback now than we were at the beginning of the season. And that's a huge problem for me in my book. And I know Jared Goff wasn't expected to be the guy, but going into the draft into the next season, we still don't have an answer, and we won't have an answer. And that's what worries me about the future, because that's obviously the most important position on the field. You need a good one.
Yeah, my big, I don't know if I want to call it a negative or just a worry, but it's the offense in general. Outside of like a couple guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown who really impressed this year. Deandre Swift was, what we expected Deandre Swift to be. Then you have guys like T.J. Hawkinson that seemingly took a step back. I don't know if that's because Jared Goff was throwing the ball.
Well, he also got hurt too.
Yeah, I know he got hurt eventually. I'm saying before he got hurt, he didn't, like, he started off strong and then he kind of was non-existent for like the last 5 or 6 games before he got hurt.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like this offense feels so far away from what we saw this season. It feels so far away that I'm starting to get worried that we're going to need a running back again by the time we have this offense in place. Because running backs' lifespans are short-lived in the NFL. And
absolutely.
We've already had 2 years of DeAndre Swift, and I think it's going to be another 2 years before we get a quarterback. So I don't see us having a quarterback this next year, a new quarterback this next year. So we're going to be in year 4 of DeAndre Swift with probably a rookie quarterback. And then by the time that quarterback develops, you're going to have, what, a 28-year-old DeAndre Swift? So, like, I'm starting to get worried about, and then, like, where's this offensive line going to be by the time you get the offense in place? Yes, you have some younger pieces in Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow, even though Frank Ragnow might actually, if my math is correct, he's going to be pushing 30 by the time we're in year 2 of a quarterback, assuming we draft the quarterback in the 2023 draft. But yeah, I'm just kind of, while I was happy to see some bright spots in this offense, I might be overthinking it. I'm just really concerned if this is all going to gel together at the same time.
I'm kind of right there with you also. Like, the offense didn't really take any steps forward this year. Like I mean, yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a great piece. Like,
your big pluses were the 2 rookies on the offense, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah,
those were your big pluses.
That's a good plus to have. That's a good thing to have. But the other pieces that you thought you had didn't show up. And like you mentioned, TJ Hawkinson, he really struggled this year, and then he ended up missing out on the rest of the season. Yeah. But also,
Quintez didn't do much before he got hurt.
Right, but also another big one that we looked at was DeAndre Swift. Like, he wasn't very effective this year, even when he was healthy. And I know he battled a lot of injuries, and yes, he had a good game here and there, but for the most part, he was largely ineffective, and a lot of that could have been due to the injury. But it starts to make you wonder if, much like the hope we had with Kerryon Johnson, is when are we going to start seeing the fruits of this talent that's there? And in the case of Kerryon Johnson, we never got to see it. And DeAndre Swift, as you mentioned, he's, by the time this team's ready, he's going to be like 28 years old. Are we going to see the fruits of that talent there? So, and my question for you is, like, if DeAndre Swift is going to give us what he gave us this year, you can find that in the 3rd, 4th round of any draft. So he's got to be a running back that you can consider a franchise running back. He's got to show you something a little bit more than what he's shown us thus far in his career. And yes, we've seen flashes of it, but he's got to be more consistent with it to be worthy of not just being replaced by a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
I do feel like we're shortchanging DeAndre Swift a little bit here. I mean, did he get a combined 1,000 yards at all this year or no?
I'm looking him up right now.
Yeah, he got a combined.
Okay, 1,000 yards,
a little over 1,100 yards in 13 games.
1,000 yards for a running back is about
1,000 total yards, not rushing yards. Total yards.
No, I know, but 1,000 total yards. That's not that impressive in 2022. It's not.
No, I know, but I'm saying we're just putting context. That's 1,100. Let's call it 1,100 yards in 13 total games.
10 looks like 1060.
1060.
617 and 452.
Yep.
So 1060, 1070, 1069, I think, actually.
Yep.
Which, again, that number doesn't jump off the page. Yeah, that's solid. But again, you can find that in the 2nd and 3rd round of any draft. Let's be real. So for us to justify keeping him around into his ages 27, 28 seasons, he needs to show us more. And I know he battled injury this year. I understand that. But he's also got to prove that he's, one, able to stay healthy and stay on the field, because you're no use to us off the field. And 2, he's got to show that he can be productive enough to justify keeping him around, because those numbers are replaceable. They are. There's a lot of running backs in this league that could do that.
It sure fell at times that Jamal Williams could do it.
Yes. I think Jamal Williams could do it.
Yeah, but in general, like my concern with DeAndre Swift is, are we going to be able to put things together while he's still productive? That's my concern with DeAndre Swift.
I'll be honest with you. If this is
he didn't take a step forward that I was expecting him to take this year, but at the same time, like I didn't feel he was bad by any means.
No, but if this is the DeAndre Swift that we're going to be seeing long term, he's not our long term running back, because again, this can be replaced cheaper and with a 2nd or 3rd round pick. It can be. Because these guys that put up 1,000 total yards between rushing and passing, the guy averaged 4.1 yards per carry. That's league average at best. That's not a good number. You can find that in mid rounds of the draft. I'm sorry.
He did have back-to-back 100-yard rushing games.
Great. Inconsistency. He's got to, okay, I like Deandre Swift a lot. I do. I think he can be a great player in this league. I want him to be successful. Because I think he can be. But if he doesn't show us any more production than what we saw this year, is it worth it? Is a running back that only puts up less than 700 yards running and 500 yards receiving actually that worth it? Is it worth giving him a second contract? I'm going to sit here and say no, it's not. Because you can find that elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Those numbers are replaceable. You want to tell me that a guy puts up 1,800 or 1,700 all-purpose yards or total yards between receiving and rushing? That's a little bit harder to replace. Or 1,600 or even 1,500. That's harder that's hard to replace. But 1,000 to 1,100, that's not.
Anyway, anything else to say on the Lions before we move over to the Pistons?
Hope for a better season next year.
Yeah.
And I hope to see guys like Hawk and DeAndre Swift return to what we think they can be. Because I know it's in them, and I know they got the talent to do it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. But yeah, giant, massive, humongous Pistons news. The Detroit Pistons traded Rodney Magruder and the Nets' second-round pick in 2022 to the Denver Nuggets for Bol Bol. Nick, does that make us contenders?
It makes somebody that sits behind the end of the bench really pissed off. Because now their seats are obstructed. Okay, Bol Bol he's gimmick. He's a gimmick in this league. He's 7 foot what? 7'3"?
It's 7'2", 7'3", something like that.
And he's got skill. He can handle the ball, pass the ball. He's got skill. He's just so raw and undeveloped that you almost you can't play the guy very much.
Been in the league, what, 3 years now?
Has it been that long?
Yeah, here's what I take away from it. I have two major takeaways on this. One is we basically got him for free. It's a high 50s second round pick and a guy who never plays in your team outside of a couple minutes in garbage time here and there. So I'm not too upset with what we gave up. No, do I expect much from Bol Bol? Again, they basically gave him up for free. They wouldn't have given him up for free if they thought anything was going to come out of him. So by they, I mean Denver.
Do the Pistons own their second round pick this year, or now do they no longer have one?
That is a fantastic question. I believe we have one, but let me double check.
I'll tell you in a second. I got it here.
But
because I thought they traded their draft picks in that Christian Wood trade.
If anyone is worried about, I don't know.
The Pistons do not own a second round pick. Wait, this might be just first round. This might be just first round.
I'll tell you this. I have it pulled up. I'll tell you in 1 second here. So in 2022, we have.
We do not have a
very confusing.
We do not have a second round pick because we just traded it to Brooklyn.
The most favorable of Detroit and Chicago to San Antonio, then other to Sacramento via Chicago swap to Detroit, via San Antonio swap of Los Angeles for Chicago or Detroit via Washington, via Chicago to San Antonio via Memphis, Sacramento. That is a web of deceit.
Here we go. Hang on. From what I am seeing, the Pistons do own a second round pick, but
I could have sworn we do. But
it is one of either the Bulls, Wizards, Spurs, Grizzlies, or Kings. I don't know who's.
Basically, that's what I was saying. Okay.
So, here it is. If the pick is worse than, oh my God, there are so many stipulations.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If the Kings pick is less favorable than the Bulls, the Pistons take it.
Which it's going to be.
If the Grizzlies pick is less favorable than the Bulls, the Pistons take it. But then if the Spurs...
We basically get either the Spurs or the Sacramento pick this year for our second round pick. We have that. We have one of the two. To sum it up, it's the Spurs or the Kings second round pick that we're going to get. One or the other.
But who owns it? Because now it's saying the Spurs could take the Pistons pick, the Wizards could take the Pistons pick, the Bulls could take the Pistons pick, or the Grizzlies could take the Pistons pick.
Oh,
or
sorry,
the Kings.
no, you're right. You're right. It's our pick is going to go to. Wow, this is so confusing.
So we do not have a second round pick.
This is torture for our listeners right now.
But we do not have a second round pick.
We owned was the Brooklyn one,
and it's gone. Gone. So we do not have a second round pick now.
But
so
if
that
anybody was worried
actually
about
does
that
kind of
second,
hurt.
well, I mean, with that range last year, we drafted Balsa. So
true,
and we cut him immediately.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But either way, so like, I guess the one positive I can give you guys on this trade is that Pistons need length. At least you get length that maybe you can throw in for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes a game. You get these guys used to playing with some length because you can have some length coming in this draft. I've seen length quite a few times in the last 2 sentences. It's just, it just comes down to, I guess I'd rather have Bol Bol than Rodney McGruder, but I'm not expecting much out of Bol Bol.
I do kind of wonder how much he's actually going to get to play because especially once Olynyk gets back, because you really think about it, it's going to come down to whether or not Bol plays or Garza plays. Because there's probably not enough minutes for the both of them. Mm-hmm. So if it means hindering Luka Garza's development and growth, I'm not sure that I'm favorable on it. Because, again, I think Garza can be a talented big scorer off the bench in this league. I know defensively he's just a total liability, but he can shoot the ball. And Pistons need somebody that can shoot the ball from, with some height off the bench. And then once Olynyk comes back, what happens then? Because then Garza's minutes will drop. And then where's Bol going to play? And so there's a lot of questions on whether or not how this...
If Garza Trey Lyles minutes.
Well, Trey Lyles probably won't be playing the 5 any longer at that point. He'll probably be playing the backup 4 or 3.
Yeah. And that's the interesting part about Bol Bol. Like, even though he's like 7'2", he is more of a 4.
He is. You're not wrong. I mean, so is Luka Garza at 7 feet.
I still will never understand how guys with that length can't rebound, like Brook Lopez syndrome. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But it is what it is.
Wait, you can't understand what?
How one can be that tall and not be able to rebound.
Yeah. Good question.
you physically are closer to the ball than everybody else when it comes off the
It's got to be you don't have the body size to physically beat guys. Like, guys are able to get
hand-eye coordination to put the hands where the ball is going to be.
Oh God, I would hope they have that if they're in the league, but they just don't. They get bodied around down there. Like, they're really tall, but they don't have the size and the strength to outwork some of these, or the motor to outwork some of these guys. Like Isaiah Stewart and Ben Wallace may not be the tallest guys out there, but man, do they have a lot of motor and energy and athleticism to get up there and get the ball better than most.
Yeah, I did see an article from Pistons Powered that I do think is really stupid, but they basically said the reason that Troy Weaver did this trade was to give Cade and company experience playing with a guy like Chet Holmgren before they drafted Chet Holmgren. And
that's a hot take.
And I'm like, I don't think Bol Bol is going to decide who you draft in any manner. I don't
know.
If let's put it this way. Let's say we were at 3 and Jabari Smith got taken and Paolo Banchero got taken and we're sitting at 3 staring Chet Holmgren in the face, and you don't draft them because you don't like the way they looked with Bol Bol on the court, yeah, I'd throw a fit.
That's when you draft Kofi Coburn.
So, yeah, I don't get that, but, that's really all I got to say on that trade. There's really not too much to break down with it.
I think that is somebody who is trying to make something where there's nothing.
Yeah.
With that, like, I don't think Bol Bol is going to have. I think what the Pistons are doing is much like what they did with, I don't want to say Josh Jackson, Hamidou Diallo, like guys who had good upside that never panned out, but because they were at least a little bit more in the league, but like. That's kind of what it is. It's a reclamation project. It's a guy who's got a lot of upside and talent. Just he's really raw and it hasn't developed.
Yeah.
So maybe they sent him down to the G League. I don't know. I don't know what his contract is like, if he's even a two-way player. But Regardless, it doesn't really move the needle for me.
No,
I don't see this guy getting meaningful minutes in any way. Will he be Will he be the new human victory cigar?
That would mean victories, so one can only hope.
Hey, but you know what? We got one last night.
Yeah, that was something else.
That was the wildest game I think I've ever been to. It was so bipolar because that first quarter, and even the entire second quarter, the second quarter was a little bit better, but the first quarter in particular was so bad. I honest to God thought we were going to say, let's cut out at half.
Yeah. We were legit talking. We were like, yeah, we're going to have to find a bar that's open on a Monday night. It's a tall task. But
it was brutal. Cade started like 0 for 5. Nobody could hit a shot.
Nope.
Second quarter comes around. They showed a little bit of fight. A little bit. And then the second half starts and it's a light switch flicked.
Yeah.
Like
I'll say right now, the Pistons are up 11-5 to start right now against the Bulls, so I think that's a bad omen.
Nice. So it's the opposite of yesterday. Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's 2 straight games that have gone that have been like super exciting because I last went to the Spurs game, even though it was the Motor City Cruise versus San Antonio Spurs. It was an overtime game where Headband Deke went all Headband Deke crazy on us.
He played well last night, both he and Cade. Cade with the career high.
He played well last night too. I'm starting to think I might have something to do with Headband Deke.
Unless you've been to 11 of his last 14 games, I don't think so.
Nope, I've been to 4 of them. 4 Headband Deke performances.
Wasn't one of them a bad one, though?
I went to the Knicks game, the Spurs game, the Jazz game. All were pretty great Headband Deke performances. And then the Rockets game.
Okay.
That's 4.
All right. Well, either way.
Actually, wait, was Headband Deke on the Rockets? I don't think that was Headband Deke.
No, that was
Never mind.
Because wasn't Jerami Grant still in the lineup at that point?
I believe Jerami Grant was still in the lineup for that game.
Anyways, though, let's go ahead.
That's beside the point
here. Yeah, let's go ahead and pivot here over to some trade discussion. I know we've talked about some trade scenarios for Jerami Grant in the past, but it seems like the phone has been ringing off the hook in Troy Weaver's office.
Yes,
with inquiries about Jerami Grant. So I know you've got a couple to throw out to me, so I'm curious to hear what you got.
Well, yeah, Shams has reported out that there are 4 major teams that he named that are interested in Jerami Grant, and those teams are the Lakers, the Blazers, the Knicks, and the Wizards. And those are 4 teams among other teams. Those are just the 4 teams he named.
The Lakers,
honestly,
the Blazers,
none
the
of
Knicks,
these
and the Warriors?
Wizards.
Okay.
The only name that surprises me here is the Lakers, to be honest.
That one doesn't surprise me at all. That one is, as far as I know, that one's been connected to Jerami Grant since the trade talks began.
I know, but I don't know why. I don't know if, at least the way I view it, they don't need another ball dominant guy there. I don't know what they like.
Well, the way I look at it is that's a team that's fighting for a playoff spot, 1. 2, they have a lot of injuries, and having Jerami Grant there allows them to maybe have LeBron take a night off late in the year, a couple nights off, or AD to slowly come back so he's fresher towards the playoffs. Maybe it gives Russell Westbrook another option to pass the ball to because we know he struggled quite a bit there. Yes, it creates a logjam a little bit, but that's a team who's just looking for pieces to contribute because they don't have a lot outside of their big 3. There's not a lot of contributions there. So I get it in a sense of they're just looking for guys that can play. It just doesn't quite work positionally. But again, I don't think that team plays positions in the natural sense that we know it. So I don't think it really matters.
And the other reason, though, that I don't see why the Lakers would be pursuing Grant is just to make the money work. They're going to have to get rid of one of their big 3, not necessarily trade him to us, but in general, they're going to have to move one of their. They're not going to move LeBron. They're not going to move AD. Where are they going to move Westbrook to get Jerami Grant?
Are they going to have to move him? Because I thought they've got another big contract on there that they can pair with somebody else.
I don't think they have a big contract that they would trade for Jerami Grant.
I'll pull up the trade machine. I know it's everybody's favorite tool, the ESPN trade machine.
It is.
Hot take theater here. Let's see. Let me throw Jerami Grant up there. Well, one of the names I have heard that would be involved in a trade for Jerami Grant is Taylor Horton Tucker.
I saw a tweet what if we gave you 3 Taylor Horton Tuckers? because of how much like Taylor Horton Tucker's been thrown around.
Right. You could look at Taylor Horton Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, and somebody else to make the money work. But that's really all you could. But I can't even click on Taylor Horton Tucker right now because I don't think he's available to trade yet because he just got signed. So, but Taylor Horton Tucker's where that trade scenario would have to start. And frankly, Taylor Horton Tucker does not move the needle for me in any way. I don't care. Like he's not a terrible player, but he ain't what I want.
Neither does Kendrick Nunn. So we don't need another point guard on this roster.
Kendrick Nunn would be waiver wire fodder.
I would like Malik Monk, but again, you got to make the money work somehow. Like another team that we just named, the Knicks. This one could get interesting too. So both the Knicks and Pistons beat writers for the Athletic. So James Edwards and Evan Katz for the Athletic. Sorry, Fred Katz, not Evan Katz. They put an article about just kind of discussing the parameters of how a trade would work between the Knicks and the Pistons for Jerami Grant, and they stated that to match Grant's salary, the Knicks have to give up either Evan Fournier or two of either Alex Burks, Kemba Walker, and Nerlens Noel. And that's just to make the money work.
You said Evan Fournier.
Or two of these next three guys, Alex Burks, Kemba Walker, and Nerlens Noel. And that's just to make that's just the part that would make the money work. Like they're saying that would. What are
we getting in return? Because none of that works for me.
Yeah, that's it. That's not going to move the needle in terms of actually getting a trade done. That's just to make the money work. They said next they'd have to include young players or draft picks to entice the Pistons. And the question is, are the Knicks willing to give up rotational pieces like Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley? I don't know if the Knicks are, but Nick, do any of those names entice you?
No. Mitchell Robinson.
I thought Obi Toppin was going to get you because I know you were Obi Toppin.
I like Obi Toppin a lot. Yes, I like the possibilities there. I mean, he is a pretty solid player. Maybe Obi Toppin moves the needle a little bit because of the upside there. But I know I can find better elsewhere. Like I know I can find more out on the open market than Obi Toppin and an abysmal contract of Evan Fournier's. Like I know I can get more. Well, so I'll probably pass on that also.
Here's one that I find really interesting. This is one that ESPN Plus. So ESPN put an article out kind of laying out the groundwork for each team for the NBA trade deadline, what each team needs, what it's a realistic trade that each team can make, all that stuff. And a trade that they laid out for the Pistons was obviously centered around Jerami Grant. They send Jerami Grant to the Grizzlies for Kyle Anderson, Brandon Clark, Jarrett Culver, and 2 first-round picks, one from the Jazz, one from the Warriors. I think I like that one.
That one is a little bit intriguing. So you said Kyle Anderson, Jarrett Culver, Brandon Clark.
And 2 firsts.
And 2 firsts. Yeah, I think I like that one. I think I like that one a lot. 2 first-round picks. Granted, they probably won't be that high, but 2 first-round picks, and I get Jarrett Culver and Brandon Clark. Like I like Brandon Clark as a player. I think he's a solid rotation guy in this league. I think Culver can groom himself into that.
Yeah, Culver was a guy I really liked coming out of college. I mean, so was Brandon Clark, but
and Kyle, that's a $10 million expiring contract. Yeah, I'd take that.
I mean, that kind of checks all the boxes that I want in a trade. But so like just comparing that, like what we're saying in terms of the Knicks not being able to offer much in the way of enticing pieces, you compare that to what you not saying the Grizzlies would agree to this, but what you could potentially be looking at from the Grizzlies. Yeah, there's clearly better suitors than others on the open market. And I guess just as Pistons fans, we have to hope that Troy Weaver can pick the right suitor. We should have like a Bachelor themed thing where just every team
you get a rose.
Troy Weaver goes on dates with every GM and
you get a rose. Like, do you have the confidence of Troy Weaver to pull a good trade off to get as much value out of Jerami Grant as you can?
I do.
Now, are you okay? I was having a discussion today.
Just put it this way, there hasn't been a trade that Troy Weaver has done that I've been like, oh wow, that was bad. It's not like SVG.
I've had trades where I said, okay, it's inconsequential.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that.
Bol Bol, but I haven't.
And there have been trades I loved, like the way he moved around the draft last year.
I've never been truly disappointed from a trade with Troy Weaver. So I had a discussion today with a Bulls fan regarding trading Jerami Grant. And I think you and I are kind of in lockstep here. Like, we don't think Jerami Grant is a long-term option for this team. Like, the timeline doesn't match up, especially considering we're adding another top 3 pick to this that probably is another 3 years before he's fully ready to go. Cade's got 2-3 years before he's fully ready to win. So does Bay. So by then, Jerami Grant's 30 or 31. So the timeline doesn't work there, and he's probably going to be making $25 million plus. So trading Jerami Grant to get the most value out of him now is the best option. Well, when I brought that up, said Bulls fan said if I was Pistons fan, I would be furious if I found out that my team was trying to trade Jerami Grant. That's the best player you got. Find a way to build around him, build around him and Cade, and we'll go. And I said, okay, but the thing is Jerami Grant, yes, he's a good player, but in all reality, a lot of these guys have played better without him being on the floor since he's been gone. Saddiq Bey is a perfect example of that. Saddiq Bey's been great, and it's because he plays very similar to the same role as Jerami Grant. And he's done it, honestly, since Grant's been out, equally as good as Grant's done it this year. And the 14 games that Jerami Grant's missed since he went down, Saddiq Bey's averaging 21.8, 7.3, and like 2.5 assists a game. That's better numbers than Jerami Grant's put up this year.
Yeah.
So he was trying to make the argument that that the Pistons need to be building around Cade Cunningham and Jerami Grant. And I was trying to, dispute that fact of I'd rather take Saddiq Bey over Grant in this case. And it's starting to look like it's one or the other at this point. So Andrew, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. As a Pistons fan, are you a little upset that we're looking to trade Jerami Grant?
Not at all. I mean, I kind of came to terms with it as the season went on, and then it just really clicked with me once, Headband D came into play. Because I would have said before we saw the reemergence of Saddiq Bey, I would have said, and I had said on this podcast, I'm in no rush to trade Jerami Grant. I don't think that the value is going to go down next year because next year is an expiring contract.
Unless he gets hurt.
Well, he already did get hurt.
Yeah, but he's still
but not a serious injury. But even if he's hurt, a $20 million expiring deal is a very valuable asset to hold. But now that I'm seeing Saddiq again blossom again without Jerami Grant, it's almost starting to feel to me that Grant being in this lineup, and this might even be blasphemous to some Pistons fans, it's almost like it's hurting the lineup rather than helping it at this point.
Well,
we're seeing these guys start to blossom.
I'm pretty sure the offensive metrics show that it actually is hurting them more.
We showed that last show. So, why not strike while the iron's hot? Why not capitalize on Jerami Grant? It's not like it's a serious injury. It's just a thumb injury that will completely heal. You still have the value that you get to sell of, hey, if he doesn't work out, he's an expired deal next year. So, strike while the iron's hot. Let's not get a losing mentality with these young guys in this locker room. And I think though there's guys at the top of this draft that I really would like to see in a Pistons uniform, I think are a beautiful fit. I'm still not where I was last year. I'm like, we need to lose every game. We need to tank as hard as we can.
Right, because there is no Cade Cunningham type player in this draft. I don't think.
It's not just that. I want to see these guys win. Like we got a number 1 pick. Now we have to start trying to find value rather than keep tanking.
Right.
If we land like I said before, if we land the top 3, hey, I love what's there. But I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, let's keep losing and not make a trade.
I also think, in my opinion,
a top 3 pick.
I also think, in my opinion, one of the reasons that I am for trading Jerami Grant, it doesn't have to do with what's been going on the floor, because what we've seen from Saddiq Bey since Grant's been out, it's been nice. Absolutely, he's been fantastic, but it's not a big enough sample size for me to say, all right, this is the guy that's going to fill Grant's role long term. I'd like it to be, and from the small sample size of games we've seen, he's done it, but not enough of a sample size for me yet. But beyond that, what he doesn't see, and Pistons fans do, is I don't want to have another situation like what we had with Blake Griffin happen.
Exactly.
Where we had a guy who was playing his out of his mind, playing the best basketball he's played since his career began, basically. And his trade value was so ridiculously high, and you chose not to strike.
Despite the insane contract.
Right, and you chose not to take that opportunity to unload or take advantage of that increased value. And you
made the same mistake with Drummond.
Exactly, and you waited on it. And then it came back in the case of Blake Griffin, you got nothing for him. You had to pay him to leave. When you
I just noticed that DeMar DeRozan has a tattoo on his shoulder of Heath Ledger's Joker.
Interesting.
But continue. Sorry.
Like, that tells that right there, and you can say that it's causing Pistons fans to be a little bit jaded, or you can't let the past dictate the future. But at the same time, I'd rather see us take advantage of the increased value, because I don't think Jerami Grant's value is going to get any higher next year, because right now he is 27 years old. He is only $20 million. A team may want to try to bring him back and try to re-sign him before the free agency craziness happens 2 years from now, because he is going to be due for a raise. So I would rather see the Pistons take advantage of that chance now than have him either walk for nothing or not get as much in return as we possibly could have next year.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I haven't gone deep enough into this draft to comment on how deep this. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the top end talent, but in terms of how deep this draft is compared to what the 2023 draft would hold. But
until the Pistons make a move, it's really irrelevant to the Pistons as of right now.
But I'm talking about like if there are some, I don't know, but if there are some targets that are enticing in the middle or late rounds, that could be another reason to trade Jerami Grant now rather than later. And
absolutely. Guys, I think in those middle to late picks is where you'll find a lot of the shooting in this draft, much like you do in every single draft. There's a lot of shooting there, and the Pistons need it, obviously. They're shooting awful this year.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be worth it. Who knows? We'll find out, though. But anyways,
it's going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. And we still have a ways to go before the deadline. Aren't we still like a month away?
Yeah, we're still a month away.
So we've still got a lot of time. I don't anticipate any moves happening in the next couple of weeks. But
the way this thing is being reported, like, it might not take till the deadline.
That is true. That is true. But we'll see.
Here's a tweet for reference. Here's how the Lakers can rebuild on the fly. Trade Taylor Horton-Tucker to Detroit for Jerami Grant. Then also trade Taylor Horton-Tucker to Philly for Ben Simmons. Finally, trade Taylor Horton-Tucker to Sacramento for Buddy Hield.
For the Lakers to rebuild on the fly, they'd have to get rid of one of Russ or AD. It has to start there. If you search Jerami Grant on Twitter, 90% of the tweets are just garbage trades being proposed by Lakers fans. Like this one says, Taylor Horton-Tucker for Jerami Grant. Grant will give LA a 3 and D wing and give Goodnance a 3 and 4, switching LBJ and AD. Like, really? Trevor Ariza and Taylor Horton-Tucker? You think that's going to get the trade done? First off, that doesn't even make the money work.
Nope.
I think for the Lakers to get the deal done, you'd have to get a third team involved. I don't think there's a chance for them to do it without one. Just to make the money happen.
Yeah, this Lakers fan tweet out three-team trade said Knicks get Taylor Horton-Tucker, Lakers get Jerami Grant, Pistons get Kemba Walker, Kendrick Nunn, and Kent Bazemore.
Do people not realize Jerami Grant makes $10 million a year more than Taylor Horton-Tucker?
Then the Lakers think everybody wants Taylor Horton-Tucker. I don't understand it.
In all reality, most teams don't want Taylor Horton-Tucker. THT's a fine player, but he ain't that good.
Here's our Lakers fan saying Pistons fans are overvaluing Jerami Grant.
Are we? Okay.
Yes. Apparently.
All right. Well, I'll let.
But they're not overvaluing Taylor Horton-Tucker.
I will let the continuous phone calls prove otherwise. I don't hear continuous phone calls for Taylor Horton-Tucker like they say.
Yep.
But that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, is that all we got for today?
That is.
All right.
I mean, I could. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's all we got. I could roast Lakers fans some more if you guys want to, but
I mean, I do enjoy a good, Lakers fan roast. But anyways, that is going to close it out for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. As always, Andrew, thank you for joining me. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Enjoy your week. See you later.
Peace.